Hello and welcome to the First Issue Club podcast. We're your weekly comic book reading club. We're just like Sue Storm. We love a good read. Reed Richards, Sue Storm's husband, Mr. Fantastic. Sue loves Reed. We love good reads. Good read is in a common saying, R-E-A-D, something that you read. In this case in particular, comic books. Now you got the motif.
Yeah, you may be wondering why we had to go do that and explain it so thoroughly. 500 emails we've gotten from our new catchphrase, just like Sue Storm, we love a good read. So we thought we would just, address address Reedgate, and explain what the bit was.
Yeah, some people have a really hard time with phonograms.
Is that what that is?
I think so.
I don't know. I just read comics, man. I don't know nothing about no English.
No, that's not right. It's not a phonogram. Now I got to Google it.
Someone's screaming at us through the ether.
This is one of my favorite segments of the show, and it's called Fic Googles. First Issue Club Googles stuff.
While you're doing that, I'll remind everyone, we have an FIC hotline. If you have a question or want to ask or give us a comment, then your voice will be on the episode. That number is 816-579-1734. Data rates do apply. You can text or call. No one from First Issue Club will respond in any way, shape, or form. So if anyone answers that call that you made, you've dialed the wrong number. Hang up immediately.
And if you call, leave your favorite homophone.
It's a homophone. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Solved.
Boring. Again, we're tackling the world's problems, teaching you something new every single week.
While teaching ourselves something new, apparently.
And we're going to enlighten you on the comic book news. First, I'm Mike.
I'm Greg.
And this week, we are the First Issue Club. The OGs.
The original two.
The last remaining of the original cast of characters.
R.I.P.
Vargas is in Texas.
He's en route.
Wish him well.
Mm-hmm. I hope he gets out of there as soon as possible.
You survive the experience. Everything is bigger.
So they say.
Yikes.
Yikes. I cannot handle those Texas-sized burgers.
Nope.
They are too big.
Too big for me.
Too much bread.
Too big, Daddy. There's bewildering comic book news this week.
This week was a bit of a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons.
And this was, I guess I'll say big spoilers for Spider-Man 26.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't read it yet and you want to hear it.
Well, you know what? There's not going to be really many spoilers because Marvel spoiled it for you.
That sucked.
A week before it
Yeah.
actually happened.
I know. All that stuff leaked, and then I saw the cover. The reveal of the secret cover was more or less what did it. And a large news outlet just used that as the thumbnail for their headline that was like, Marvel kills off character.
Yeah.
And I was just like, God damn it. I was so close.
Damn you, Entertainment Weekly. What are you doing?
Shots fired. We named you by name. EW, it was you.
You don't see US Today pulling this shit.
But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. You've been warned.
So here's the thing. You read it.
Yeah.
I did not.
You did not. Okay.
I read the aftermath on social media. And Mike, if I could be so bold, people are mad.
Yeah.
People are mad.
And we knew they'd be mad. I think when they did the preemptive thing that was like, Zeb Wells maybe shouldn't go to cons for like a year after this. I was like, it's going to be a huge death if they're saying that. And I just assumed Mary Jane Watson because...
Canonically, that would make a lot more sense.
Of course, with Spider-Man's luck.
Yeah.
Another love of his life is going to kick the bucket. I will say, too, though, we can get into the conversation about Marvel deaths and do deaths really stick, yada, yada. But in the comic, the way it unfolded, someone was coming after Mary Jane.
Mm-hmm.
You often forget one of Kamala Khan's superpowers is that she can shapeshift.
Mm-hmm.
Not only does she have like super fists that stretch and she can do her embiggen thing,
Mm-hmm.
she can do that because the primary power is like refolding her body into anything she wants it to appear as.
Correct.
So she made herself appear to be Mary Jane, who a bad guy was after.
Right. So
And-
first problem, identity theft.
Yeah, right.
I'm not saying that Kamala Khan should have died because of that. We just need to address it.
Yeah, right.
Identity
I'm
theft.
glad you mentioned it.
Okay, continue.
And yeah, so she took the sword,
Oh, it was a sword.
death by sword.
Oof.
Um,
You don't see that. That's personal.
yep. So the first, it would have been an amazing reveal
Mm-hmm.
at the end, or like a moment at the end of the comic where you think Mary Jane dies, and then it turns out it's Kamala. The way it was written was great for it to be a twist.
But Marvel can't
But-
leave well enough alone.
Yeah, but Marvel just blew it, and it was real. Like, I just imagine there's been a couple moments I've had with comic books where things remained unspoiled for me, and it's just so exciting to like get the comic on that day
Mm-hmm.
and find out what happened. And there's, with deaths not really sticking, there's only so many things you can really like wow people with anymore.
Mhm.
Like, honestly, I couldn't tell you the last time I was like, oh shit.
Not for mainline
And
Marvel
like
DC
a
shit.
big Marvel DC book, right? It's easier to do in indies.
Mm-hmm.
They've been going like 20 issues, and then they kill off a big character, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe they did that.
Totally.
But
Like Saga still has the ability
yeah,
to shock and surprise
shake
me.
you. Yeah, right. So repercussions of this.
In comics or out of comics? What are you talking?
My head was immediately going to out of comics.
Mm-hmm.
I can start with in comics.
I'm
Um,
just along for the journey, my man.
Kamala's been in Amazing Spider-Man working for Norman Osborn and has kind of been like bit-bopping around, but like not really a big part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a character that people love, but has kind of been a little more sidelined recently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's been an ongoing Miss Marvel book for at least a year now, right?
Yeah,
Does
and
that sound right?
And I don't know if they've completely abandoned the outlawed storyline
Yeah.
where all superheroes under the age of, was it 18 or 21, like can't do superhero shit.
Yep.
Like it's like kind of like voting. Like you got to wait till you're 18 to go out and do stuff. So I don't know if they have continued that kind of story, or if like what I'm wondering is in MCU and in Marvel Comics, Kamala Khan has different powers.
Yeah.
In each iteration.
Yep.
And so I'm wondering if they're just trying to figure out how the hell do we kind of make it more of a cohesive character.
Yep.
That transcends in comics and in movies.
Yeah, one of the things that we were hashing out on the First Issue Club Discord this week,
Mm-hmm.
someone mentioned that Kamala's an Inhuman in the comic books
Mm-hmm.
and a mutant in the MCU.
Right.
And do they do some sort of like Krakoan rebirth thing
Sure.
for Kamala?
Mm-hmm.
Wherein, yeah, she was an Inhuman, but she also had the X gene. So her memory was captured by Xavier without her knowing, and then we're gonna like Krakoan egg her and,
Mhm.
and bring her back.
Well, I think I've read an article where G. Willow Wilson, who is I think the creator, or one of the creators of Miss Marvel,
Yep.
the intention was to make her a mutant.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is going to be the fulfillment of that, like arc,
Yep.
or like they're just kind of trying to right the wrongs that kind of spilled out from just normal comic book shenanigans.
Yeah, right.
And they're just going to try to, like what we just talked about is a Krakoan rebirth, wherein she now has powers that are similar to what we're seeing in the MCU.
I would not be surprised at all if that happens.
I wouldn't either.
They're doing a one-shot that's like a Kamala funeral, like goodbye celebration of Kamala's life thing.
Okay.
And I think G. Willow Wilson's writing, if not one story, the whole thing. I'm not totally sure if it's going to be like anthology style or not. But she's involved in it in some capacity. And part of me thinks that maybe they treat this like they did Wolverine, where you killed off Wolverine and he was gone for a year or so. And that death had a big impact. That even though it's Wolverine and you're like, you can't.
Ain't no way.
Yeah, ain't no way. He's one of the most popular comic book characters, period. Marvel, DC, indie comics, whatever you want to say. But having him gone for a solid year and then bringing him back felt like a real moment.
Sure.
Because they were like, yeah, we're really getting rid of Wolverine for a while. You can look at the solicits. There's no Wolverine books coming up for the foreseeable future. and it made Death of Wolverine more fun to read, knowing that he was going to like take a hiatus at least.
Sure.
And I think they wouldn't be releasing this like Goodbye Kamala comic if they didn't plan on having her gone for like at least 6 months or so.
Yeah, because as we were talking about on the Discord, someone was mentioning just like the Marvels.
Yeah, that movie's coming out.
Is going to premiere
September?
Yeah.
Something like that?
About 6 months from now.
Yeah.
So you really hate to think it's corporate synergy.
Yeah.
That she'll return right around the same time as this
maybe
movie's
they'll do
coming
a big
out.
rebirth, and it would. I think by now it would be like 4 months from now.
Okay.
By the time that movie comes out, so you could do a big Kamala rebirth excitement, new number one. That's like, yeah, she's a mutant, and here's some explaining of who Kamala is again to create synergy with the movie. Would not be surprising at all.
I think people. So as I mentioned on social media, people were, I guess, rightly upset with this because the conversation of, fridging came up, which is like a term that is used in the industry of just like essentially just killing off a character for someone else's character growth.
Yeah.
Or killing off a character just for the sake of killing a character.
Yep.
Like a character needs to die, we're doing this one.
Yep.
And, people were, the dialogue was actually kind of, enriching, and like the back and forth was actually, a little more civil than when we found out that, what's Reed Richards' son's name?
Oh, Franklin Richards.
When Franklin Richards finds out
mutant.
it wasn't a mutant, I mean, I thought Dan Slott was going to have to move to fucking Europe. Like, people wanted his head on a stick.
Right.
But the conversation there was a lot just like, why do we allow this to happen, and why is it happening to Kamala? Like, the narrative of just like, to have it happen to Kamala doesn't really make a ton of sense narratively. And so, like,
because she was barely she's been in the Spider-Man universe, but she's barely been in the comic books.
Yes.
When she shows up, it's like, oh yeah, Kamala's at Oscorp.
Right.
She hasn't been like a mainstay or a normal character that feels like a part of the Spider-Man canon that made that death more. It maybe could have made that death more impactful if you'd been seeing and hearing a lot from her and she had more of an arc. But she was definitely a background character in Spider-Man, which, to maybe Zeb Wells' credit, is that made the death
even more surprising,
even more shocking. That what, it was Kamala. Again, I think we'd be having a completely different wow moment conversation if it hadn't been spoiled ahead of time.
Also, don't think for a second that this was Zeb Wells' idea.
Oh. We when we talked to Kelly Thompson, it was just like, how did you decide Stargott would get like a Infinity Stone, and she was like, "Oh, dear boy."
Yeah. Like some Marvel editor was just like, "Listen, we need this to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking get us there,
Exactly
Zeb."
right.
And
Like,
he gets that email. He's like, "Oh, fuck.
yeah,
Like, I guess I'm not going to C2E2 this year because I'm
Right.
going to get mobbed."
yeah.
So keep the Zeb Wells hate on fucking simmer for a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Like
And
that,
keep in mind that this happens all the time, that we kill characters and we bring them back, and it becomes a large part of the mythology and canon of the character. And you can't have these great, cool redemption rebirth stories without killing off the character for a while.
Right.
And again, like we talk about earned moments and how maybe her death didn't feel earned, but it was certainly surprising. But maybe there's a moment they're working towards that will feel especially earned because we'll have had
yeah.
no Kamala Khan for a little bit.
And
One thing we haven't said out loud yet during this conversation is that this is a Muslim character, and the representation has been huge for people.
oh, sure, yeah.
And that's one, I think the reason that not only is this like a character that like nerds especially gravitate towards, because Kamala's like a D&D video game head, like big time nerd, calls her like sizing up power embiggen, which is like, if you're a nerd, you know where that comes from. So hurts on that front, just as like a fan favorite. But two, there's just another layer of it because we as comic book fans and Marvel fans, it's one of the things you kind of love about Marvel is like they made a Spider-Man that was Black and Hispanic.
Yeah.
They made an Asian woman, like they gave Cindy Moon the same origin story as Peter Parker, and now she is his contemporary, more or less. They've done so many things to give you like mainline versions of characters that represent different cultures who have historically not seen themselves represented. And I heard this story the other day that I'll tell really quickly that just like made me want to cry, that the gal who got cast as the Little Mermaid
Oh,
in
sure.
the new movie just assumed she was auditioning for another part and was just like, oh, they mistyped when they offered me the role, because she was just like, I'm not a white redhead. I just like never considered myself like having an inkling of chance of being cast as a lead in this movie. And you're like,
That's fucked up.
it had this moment for me that it was just like, wow, you have so many people growing up who are just like, I could never be a Disney princess. And as goofy as that sounds, it's like none of us are actually Disney princesses, but it's really like your childhood heroes and those characters we love are just people who are other and not something you can see yourself in.
Right.
And having Kamala Khan be an American Muslim character, it's like, how many other huge pop culture icon, fictional superhero type characters or cartoon characters can you name that are Muslim that are that popular? Where I think you have little girls who aren't otherwise really into comics who are dressing up during Halloween as Miss Marvel because they've got that wonderful connection.
Yep.
So that's just a reason that needs to be said out loud, that it's like, that's why this hurts and is so shocking that it was just one of those characters that seemed untouchable because of those unique circumstances and how much of like an icon of representation that character has become. So definitely hurts, but at the same time, I think it's impossible that this death lasts more than 6 months, and we just have to recognize that and know that she's going to come back, and hopefully that moment seems really earned and cool, and it validates
No, and
the death we got in the first
and I get
place.
that because like you have this bombastic character who dies in someone else's book.
Yep.
You know, like it's not even like she did something heroic in a Miss Marvel book.
Yes.
She was just a bit player in an amazing Spider-Man book, and sacrificed herself for someone else, and it's just like that doesn't feel earned, and it doesn't feel like right for the character.
I'll say it was the way they wrote it. It was a world-saving moment.
Okay.
If the way it was written was Mary Jane kind of existed as they do this big thing in Spider-Man now that's like
Yeah, he swings from buildings.
yeah, exactly right. So
Yeah.
you've seen it.
Yes. I'm aware.
Where like different characters are like, the spider totem, and like you exist as this like archetype or symbol of something. And Mary Jane, for whatever reason in the storyline we won't get into, was kind of this like symbol of this religion or god that like they needed her sacrifice to bring like the apocalypse.
Naturally.
And by killing her, they would bring on the apocalypse. Kamala prevented that death, therefore preventing the apocalypse. The world was saved by Kamala's sacrifice.
Okay.
But
the lead up to that was just like,
it being like maybe like a shorter arc that it was like, oh, there's this bad guy who we just got kind of introduced to 4 issues ago. And then the wrap up of that arc is like, oh, Kamala's here all of a sudden. Oh, she died to save Mary Jane.
Right.
It doesn't feel as world savvy as it maybe could have. If they'd maybe done this during like Acts or like a bigger event or something, you might have been like,
just seems convenient.
Yeah. Right.
To serve a means to an end. But listen.
Oh, we also know that the X-Men rebirthed Captain America recently.
So we know it can be done.
So we know they can hatch anybody in the Marvel Universe. Anyone can be hatched in like a matter of days.
Yeah. Give it, 5 minutes on 425.
Right.
You got yourself a new Miss Marvel.
Yeah, exactly right.
It as a longtime Daredevil fan, the first death is always the hardest.
Yep.
But, this is Miss Marvel's first quote unquote death in Marvel Universe.
Yep. Welcome to the club.
Welcome.
You're really like
you're solidified.
You're ingrained now.
Yeah.
More or less, right?
Yeah.
It's like all the big characters have died and come back.
Now you're a legacy character.
Yeah.
If you've died and come back, you're a legacy character.
That's one way to think about it.
So she'll be back. But it has sparked a interesting conversation about how we handle deaths in comic books and like what does it mean, and like just because we know they're going to come back doesn't mean they have to be frivolous or without thought.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that part of it. And I'm excited to see the conversation that comes out of this and how she returns inevitably.
Yep.
I'm almost wondering if it's like a Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer thing where they're just in the rafters. Miss Kamala Khan's in the rafters watching her own funeral, just like listening to her eulogy, just like, man, people really did miss me.
Yeah.
She just falls through. Kamala.
I love it.
Oh man. Well, not much news other than
that kind of dominated a lot of headlines this week, huh?
I went to TowerCon over the weekend.
That's right.
The mini Kansas City Comic Con that has officially become the official mini con of First Issue Club.
Yep.
They're doing another one in September. We're going to be doing a live show during that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew that.
They gave us the thumbs up. They want us to come out and do that. They have us a booth set up and stuff, so that'll be great. So stay tuned in September for that. Other than that, I'm ready to get into comics. If you want to get into comics,
I do.
Okay.
It's a reading club after all, ain't it?
Isn't that why we're all here? To talk about what we've been reading and whether or not we liked it. First off, excuse me, folks, I read the Power Girl special by Leah Williams and Joanna Starter.
How was it?
It was good. It was. Okay, that.
Oh,
That didn't sound convincing, I'm sorry.
I'll say I've really been looking forward to this book. And I've voiced some of that on this podcast before, that I think Leah Williams' voice
Mm-hmm.
is so perfect for a character like Power Girl for a million reasons that I don't have to get into.
Sure.
But I also, the short of it is, Leah Williams is great at writing characters that feel sexy, love themselves,
Mm-hmm.
like aren't ashamed of being babes.
Sure, yeah.
And
See Exterminators.
yeah, exactly right. I just think she's like the perfect person to reclaim this like historically male gazy, oft forgotten part of the Superman family
Mm-hmm.
that like is like, why is this character kind of cast off to the side? Is it because she's got a certain body type and doesn't necessarily get treated with the proper aplomb that the other Kent family
Yeah.
characters get? And that has been directly acknowledged in the backup stories of Action Comics,
Mm-hmm.
where she's continually getting to work with Supergirl and some other characters and being like, I'm not really welcome though.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to say it, but we all know it. And seeing her work through her problems in those backup stories and kind of
Mm-hmm.
talk about herself a little differently than we've seen her be like self-aware before was just like really cool for me to see, and it got me so excited to have a new Power Girl series. And I thought that the one shot is probably going to be a good prelude to like what the temperature or tone of that series is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really looking forward to reading it. You have read it.
Yes.
You sounded very reluctant and hesitant.
No.
I'm wondering why.
No. And I apologize because my response is not indicative of how I enjoyed the book.
Okay.
Because a lot of people do forget she's from Krypton.
Yeah.
She's Kryptonian just like every other member of the Super family, whether it be Superman, Supergirl, Superboy, Krypto, all of them.
Yep.
But that's not really connected through any of her books, really, because she doesn't wear any of the insignia
Yeah.
that the other Super family wears, mainly because she doesn't feel like she's earned it.
Yep.
And that book kind of addresses this. And this is a direct fallout from Lazarus Planet.
Yes.
And the one
wherein she gets psychic powers,
correct.
which makes her more of like a Jean Grey type, which is cool.
Correct. And so she can do like attacks through psychic abilities.
Yeah.
She can, interact differently than just physical brute strength.
Yeah.
And so there's some exposition of kind of getting you up to speed of what happened with Lazarus Planet, why all of a sudden she has psychic powers.
Yep.
And I guess other people also got psychic powers through the Lazarus Planet event or whatever.
Yes. Right.
And so
Good guys, bad guys, all
Everyone.
guys in between.
everyone. And so she's dealing with that of like coming in combat with these other new psychic ability
Yeah.
villains, essentially.
You're on the task force now that you've got that in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, and so the long and short of it is basically Power Girl working through her issues of insecurity,
Yeah.
of inferiority, coming to terms with her new abilities, and kind of her new abilities either malfunctioning or just like going away.
Yeah.
So we are maybe led to believe that these psychic abilities are temporary,
Mm-hmm.
or they're just like not completely honed yet through
Yep.
Power Girl.
Right.
And so there's a lot of discussion of just like, I think what really this book was trying to explain was what happened in Lazarus Planet
Yep.
and like what it means to redefine yourself.
Yes.
Like it really explores the idea of just like, I know who I used to be. This is who I want to be now.
Yeah.
And like, that's what Leah Williams does really well. She does these big complex ideas
Mhm.
inside of a comic book burrito.
Mhm.
And so you get your fun comic book story with a lot of great exposition and like
Yeah.
great character development.
Right.
And that's what we're getting with Power Girl. A ton of fucking character development. and it's rad. She's still powerful. She's still, awesome and in your face, but she's also vulnerable now and just like, wearing her heart on her sleeve and just trying to fucking figure it out.
It makes me wonder if when we get to the ongoing, if it's going to continue that arc of self-exploration, or if the backup stories and the special were meant to be the fruition of her being like, I'm owning the new me, and then the new book is kind of like new tone of Power Girl. Almost like I'd compare it maybe to Dan Slott's She-Hulk run.
Yeah.
Was it Dan Slott?
Dan Slott did do She-Hulk.
Yeah, so Dan Slott did the She-Hulk that started with like, She-Hulk's a floozy and like got kicked out of the Avengers for partying too hard and had to find a new place to live, and then gets back into law and kind of like finds herself again and reinvents who she is as not just like a hokey jokey babe that she kind of was in the John Byrne comics, which, people love for those reasons. It was fourth wall breaking. I get that. But it was also like a lot of those stories probably wouldn't be told today.
It was so tongue in cheek that blood was spilling out of its mouth.
Yeah.
And there was a hole in the cheek.
Yeah, right. And I think there's a reason that a lot of people at Marvel, when you go back and hear, if you've gone to panels and if like John Byrne's name ever comes up, nobody liked the guy. I think he was abrasive. I think he was sexist.
Well, it's also come out in the last few years. He's anti-trans.
Is that right?
He's compared them to like, well, I won't say it on the podcast, but he's kind of a shitbag.
So yeah, I mean, we were just at a con, and I went to a Chris Claremont panel, and him and Roy Thomas were like, ugh, John Byrne.
Damn. If you get Chris Claremont to be like, that dude sucks, like, you must be scum of the earth.
Yeah, he was very blunt, like, we didn't get along, didn't like him.
Wow.
He was like, Chris or me, because I was just like not having his bullshit. And they were like, Chris.
Hell yeah.
Like, go do something else, man. So Dan Slott did this thing in the first handful of issues of She-Hulk, where it was kind of like reset button. And then the rest of the story was like,
sure,
here's the new She-Hulk, who's a very business, like career-minded person trying to juggle that with having superpowers.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if like we're going to get more if the next run of Power Girl is going to be her finding herself still, or if we're going to jump right into like I'm a new character now.
So here's my prediction for that.
I think based on how this one shot ended, you might have some insight.
Where I think Power Girl's going to go, she's going to try to repair her relationship with the super family.
Yep.
Because in the book, I don't want to go too far in the book. In the book, there's like a big psychic event around the world. Okay. And like everyone is like in this psychic dream state.
Yep.
And so Power Girl's just going around real life, reality, trying to, save people, help people. And she comes across Supergirl's journal. And Supergirl essentially is just like, I know that I am superior to Power Girl, but that just makes her the better person. Because like, she is more rooted in herself. She knows who she is. She's like, and she's like, she is pushing herself away from us, and I wish she didn't.
Yeah.
And so now Power Girl kind of gets that insight of just like, they do want me around. I'm my own worst. I'm getting in my own way.
Well, she also feels validated because you're hearing the person say what they think about you, what you knew they think about you, is that they're better than you. Like, so that's got to feel good to at least like feel validated and not like constantly gaslit.
And I also love the sneaky story maybe trick that is used in comics and TV and whatever when they stumble across someone's like personal journal and like they just get the quick exposition, just like, let's move this fucking story along where we can just kind of get it done really quick. So I feel like Power Girl now is going to be like, I'm going to open myself up to this.
Yeah.
And so we'll see more interaction with her and the super family.
Yeah.
We'll see her either dealing with having psychic powers or losing her psychic powers. however that's going to work its way out.
Yep.
And I anticipate a lot of fucking kick-ass girl power girl shenanigans.
That's right.
With Leah Williams at the steering wheel, I expect nothing less.
I've always thought Power Girl was an underpriced first appearance.
Oh my
And
God, yeah.
it's over the last year, it has gone up because of these backup stories in Action Comics. And I'm glad I bought it when I did.
Same.
I think that's another thing where you're just like, this is a member of the super family, and there's not many DC first appearances that are attainable.
Yeah.
At least for big characters.
Right.
Um,
And if you don't think James Gunn's kicking around the idea of putting Power Girl into a movie,
oh yeah, you got to be kidding yourself.
you're insane.
Yeah. So I'm so stoked I have that book already. And I think even though it might be higher priced than normal right now, because of that hype of a new story,
Yeah.
it's probably still not a bad time to buy that book because I think it's going to go up, up, up.
Yeah.
It's wild what you can get it for, in my opinion. It's like a 70s book, right?
Oh, yeah. It was from All Star.
Yeah, it's like All-Star Comics, which like probably stopped in like the...
Well, it's one of those things we talked about, like Squirrel Girl. Her first appearance is in a Marvel holiday special. And like only people who are enthralled and, really entrenched in comic book bullshit know that like, oh, that comic is important because Power Girl is the first appearance there.
Get your Earth 2 first appearances.
Get them while they're hot, folks.
It is Earth 2, right?
I think. I don't know.
Yeah. That's such a confusing thing where you're like, which is the first appearance to have? Like Huntress or Earth 2 Huntress?
It's like a tomato kind of thing.
Right.
Like they both go on a sandwich.
One is Helena Wayne, right? And then the other one is
Wayne Helena.
Helena Barton? It starts with a B.
I think Barton's right. No, Barton is Hawkeye.
Yeah. Helena something. I don't know.
Yeah. My Chemical Romance wrote a song about it.
Don't message me about it either. I have Google too.
So you heard this segment early in the episode, so shut the fuck up. So to wrap up Power Girl, it was great. Mainly, its existence was to get you from Lazarus Planet to Power Girl number 1.
Right on.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Comic books do that all the time.
Yeah.
It was a way to get a lot of exposition out of the way.
Yeah, right.
So, go get it if you want. Is it key reading? I don't know. Maybe.
Tell me.
You tell me. I also read Catfight on IDW by Andrew Wheeler and Elias Krunzas. It is about a cat burglar. Not a really good pet cat burglar.
Okay.
And he slowly finds out that he is from a long line of cat burglars.
Ooh.
That has been, his lineage has been hidden from him by his grandmother.
Yep.
And like they have to form a, essentially like an Ocean's 11 style team of other cat burglars.
Okay.
So
it was fun.
It was cool. It was really, really cool. IDW is always a risk sometimes with their stuff.
There was a time wherein I was like, cool, IDW first issues, gotta buy. And then, when would I say that was? Maybe 6-7 years ago? And now I'm like, no thanks, IDW.
Sure.
When I'm doing my pre-orders, which are typically organized by publisher where I buy them from, I cruise right on past the IDW section.
Because it's like mostly Sonic and Transformers and
mostly
licensed
stuff, and then the new books that they do. They used to do a lot of cool new original stories, but they've just kind of faded. That it's just like I can't look through all those IDW variants and bullshit just to find like one book that's probably not good.
I agree, because it's like I'm right there with you. Right? Like IDW used to be a big name for indie stuff,
a premier indie publisher,
and it sucks that they got kind of swallowed up.
Greg, you know what? Have yourself a real cough. Go ahead and do it.
I got it. It's taken care of.
All right,
don't
you
even
say
I
so.
don't even talk about it. It's got taken care of. Anyway, IDW. I got fridged in my own conversation. It's a good book. I'm excited to see where it goes. I made Trade Watch.
Yeah.
This one, just because it's easier that way for me. It didn't captivate me.
Yep.
Captivate me as easily and as much as I would have liked. But what can you do?
Not a lot, man.
Not every book's a heater, but this book was sizzling. If I do say so myself. I was trying to get some information I was going to share with you. So Transformers, our buddy Lance from Comic Book Keepers, Transformers did leave IDW.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he said, you can't tell me, but he says, we'll be excited to see where Transformers is going. And it's going to be announced at San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, how about that?
So, keep your ears peeled and your eyes open. I'm thinking maybe Marvel.
Marvel's getting a lot of licensed stuff lately. And like we were saying, with all the different production companies that they own and constantly merge with, that it's like, yeah, they own almost everything.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, the licensing for published work has traditionally been separate on a lot of these things, which it probably is for just a lot of stuff in general. Like you do licensing for toys, licensing for comics, licensing for novels, blah, 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 blah. But these larger brands have a shit ton of money to buy this stuff back.
Oh,
and the brands and the people like tied to those brands have more incentive to go with the bigger company because they're going to be able to, like, someone like a Marvel is going to be able to like promote the shit out of something like that.
Let's just speculate that Transformers is going to Marvel.
Yeah, who do we want to write it?
That's going to be a fucking steam engine of variants, of writers. Like, it is going to obliterate people's pre-orders. And like, you thought Star Wars #1 was a problem? Like, Transformers back at Marvel is going to fucking annihilate the news cycle.
I don't think it'll beat Star Wars.
With excitement and anticipation?
I was thinking sales.
I wouldn't be too sure of that.
That's Jason Aaron's Star Wars #1 sold so many copies.
With like con initiative variants and stuff like that.
Well, that was part of it. Was that there was like over 100 covers for it because there were so many, like, and it was one of those things, we've mentioned this before, wherein like if you order a certain amount of copies, you can have your own cover for a lot of Marvel books. So everyone was doing that for Star Wars stuff.
Like every retailer had a retailer exclusive. Every con had its own exclusive. Like, there's no shade here for Jason Aaron's Star Wars. It's a good fucking book, but a lot of that sales stuff was fueled by retailer incentives and shit like that. Yeah. Now, like Transformers, not only coming back to Marvel, it was once at Marvel.
Yep.
And now it is back. I think there would be a lot of excitement. Like the Transformers community at large is a pretty vast community. Now, does that translate into comic book sales? I have no idea.
I kind of forget how big of a property it is and how big the movies are, just because I don't even pay attention to the Transformers movies.
Right.
They just seem like garbage explosion movies that I'm just like, I don't care. They're all this. I've seen one. I've seen them all. Until
Transformers merges with the Fast and Furious franchise, I'm not interested. I want to see Vin Diesel inside Optimus Prime going, it's about family.
Yeah.
And then like jumping over something.
At what point do you think how many Fast and Furiouses would they have to be to get to that point?
Here's what I hope.
Because I could see it being a thing they consider. But they're obviously leaning in. One of the taglines for the movie this time around had to do with like the absurdity of it.
Now the cars can talk.
I mean, they went to outer space.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the moment that I was like, This ends with them going to space. And like, what do they do after that? And what they did after that was kind of like brought it back down to Earth a little bit.
They start stealing DVD players again. Back to their roots.
They just reset. Push the reset button.
It's honestly, it's either Transformers or fucking Vin Diesel driving fucking Lightning McQueen around. in like Fast and the Furious 15. Like, where no, because it needs to be time travel. He needs to find the what is that fucking car from Back to the Future?
What are those called?
I keep wanting to call it
DeLorean.
the Mandalorian. You know my Mandalorian? The doors go up.
That has to be a meme somewhere where someone's made a Mandalorian.
We just made it
look like Boba Fett. Yeah, I think Vin Diesel and his signature deep gravelly voice talking with Optimus Prime and his signature deep gravelly voice.
Yeah.
Just the two of them going back and forth like this the entire movie would be fantastic.
Optimus Prime, it's about family. I couldn't agree more. Autobots, let's get those DVD players. Transformers, hawk in all your shit.
The new one has the
animal ones.
Yeah.
The Beast Wars.
Beast, is that what there's Beast something.
Yeah.
And then the one before that had the dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm. Dinobots.
Dinobots, that's right.
Beastformers. Here's my thing. Do those creatures have souls?
Yeah.
Like, do they go to church? They're just like...
I think we're meant to...
Every Sunday they put on a suit and tie.
I think we're meant to believe that the
they're the true angels.
That the...
The biblically accurate angels is actually like an Optimus Prime.
I think we're meant to believe that the Allspark can gift sentience to these things. Yeah. I don't totally remember like the arc or explanation of those things because it's almost like, well, don't even try to explain it. They're robots that can talk. I don't fucking care. Do your explosions and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Where those movies suffer is they try to make them like deep and emotional, and it's like, we don't care. Make them more like Fast and the Furious, where it's just like fun.
Yeah.
Oh my God, a robot car just like went through a building and like did like
went through a building that's also a robot.
Yeah, right. Like leave the Mark Wahlberg drama and contemplative scenes out of it. Like we don't need that part.
Save that for A24.
But I do think it's the Allspark gives them like a soul.
Okay. Wow. So many questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like my son, Theodore, loves Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, where the fuck do these things come from? Like, do they procreate? Like, is this like a magic trick? Like, did a witch come and like just tap these trains?
You're just waiting
sentience?
for him to be like, can you have a baby with a machine?
Right. And like, that's why like I'm always like, I'm so fucking stupid. Like, I can't just enjoy the kids show. I'm just like, do they kiss? Like, what happens here? Like, do they eat food?
Yeah.
And like, do they breathe? Obviously, like they need to survive somehow.
It is one of those things where if you like, I feel like if I had no context for Thomas the Train Engine and you showed me that moon face on a locomotive, I would be like, that's a horror movie where like someone has been like human centipeded to machinery.
Right.
Or like this is like Tusk, but with instead of like walruses, it's with like locomotives.
It's like some kind of like Lovecraftian like mashup.
It does look just like an aberration or an affront to God.
Yeah, like the Allspark has clearly left this thing. Like this is like a repercussion from like a Hellraiser thing.
Right.
Just like, oh, you love trains, now you will become one.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So I don't know how we got on all that, but
boy, am I glad we did.
Rough business. And that's all the comics I read for the week.
All right. Well, we did it again. We've been a club. We talked about 2 first issues and 1 26th issue. I hope you enjoyed the ride.
Don't forget, if you want more First Issue Club, go to patreon.com/firstissueclub. Remember, you can get a 7 free day trial of either tier to see if you enjoy the Patreon content. We hope that you do and decide to stick around longer. You can find us on all the social medias that are available. We are sadly no longer on, what's that one that I always make fun of?
Like a podcasting platform?
No, it's the one where like people put their resumes.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
We got kicked off of LinkedIn.
Yeah, we got kicked off of LinkedIn because apparently our resume was so shitty.
It wasn't businessy enough.
FirstIssueClub.com is our website. All our episodes are there. Until next week, don't forget to bag and board them.
Bye. First Issue Club is edited and produced by Mike DeStacy, Greg Lichtag, and Andy Vargas. Follow us on social media at First Issue Club, and check out our Patreon for videos, audio, and more at patreon.com/firstissueclub.